Hey everyone, so this week we're doing something special. We are letting you in on our executive briefing on the global state of flexible talent. Now, we were super fortunate to present at Freelance Unlocked, the largest global conference for freelancers, this past quarter, and this episode is going to be that presentation. Now, we are going to hit on what is the state of talent today, where is it going tomorrow, what are the key trends moving this industry forward, and what are the blockers. Now, listening to this episode, I want you to really hyper listen for how will you be impacted by various trends. One trend that we call out is this shift to flexible. Rather than saying terms like freelance and gig and a bunch of other ones, we're simply saying it's flexible. And if flexible, we're talking about gig, we're talking about freelance, we're talking about fractional, and increasingly we're talking about digital workers. We're also going to hit on what's on the horizon. Obviously, we're going to talk about AI and how AI impacts every single organization, individual, and a little hint, if you don't have a flexible talent strategy, AI will eat you up. AI will disrupt you. Not AI, but your competitor will. So I want you to enjoy this episode. Also, I want you all to join Knowledge Hub so that you can have a say in creating this future of work. Right now, we just shipped exclusively for Knowledge Hub customers the framework for V2 of the market map. And I'm going to give you a little hint about it. First is that you are going to visually see what is AI going to do to the flexible talent industry. You're going to see how gig marketplaces are priming digital workers, which are overtaking gig tasks. You're also going to see how the creative and the relationship-based roles, projects, platforms are going to become more increasingly important. And you're also going to see the infrastructure of this industry. Because one thing that is crucially important for absolutely all of you is that when you say, I need to tap into flexible talent, it's not just one solution. It's not just Upwork or Fiverr. It's not just one freelancer. It is a full strategic investment that'll move your company forward from a growth, profitability, and innovation perspective. But it's also a Lego block type relationship, meaning you might need the EOR for this. You might need payment rails for this. You might need multiple platforms for various things. That's okay. That's what technology does. It creates more specialized platforms, more specialized experiences, and the market map shows that. So without further ado, enjoy this episode and then go drive some change.
Because our next guest came to us from the States, actually. And I don't believe that there are many people out there that are as experienced as he is. He brings over 10 years of experience. He's been a freelancer himself, a founder, advisor. So he knows both sides. And he runs a podcast on exactly these topics around freelancing. His company, Human Cloud, does exactly that. So I am honored to have him with us again. He joined us already last year, and he's gonna fill you guys in on how the global state of freelancing actually looks like. So please welcome on stage, Matthew Mottola.
All right, so bigger, better. I'm not lying when I say this is the world's largest freelance conference. Now, before I say anything, I want to have another round of applause for Yuri, Marta, and the whole team that put this on. So please give them a massive round of applause. Second, I promise you what I've learned in speaking in Germany is you guys don't want to answer questions, okay? I get that. I understand it. But I am going to make the non-Germans raise their hand. Who here is not based in Germany? Wow. Who here is not even based in Europe? We have a couple. Okay. And then where are my fellow Americans? Oh, we do have some. Okay. Sorry. So, before I really get going into the data, of this presentation, I want to ask a simple question, and this question is going to permeate into every single piece of data. And that question is literally just, how should you work? The last time I answered this question was in 2012 when I decided to start freelancing. And it wasn't until 2015 that I realized, okay, I might have made the right answer, because that's when I did start a real job and realized 2 weeks in, I am totally screwed. I'm not going to make it here. And I can confirm no one really believed me besides one person in this audience. Where is Alp? Where is Alp? Is he here yet? You're going to meet him later. In 2015, he was one of the only ones that I could say, he believed me when I said this question. Now, the golden question, don't you worry. Yes, I look American, I dress American. This presentation is absolutely not American. It is fully global. Here's a preview of some of the slides that I'm going to show you later. From a Europe focus, I always focus on 2 data points, freelancer confidence and talent shortage. And then, a little surprise, one of the best corporate papers on how companies scale freelance workforces actually comes from a head of procurement here in Germany. Now, I also got into your culture wars. If you guys can look quickly into this. I don't really know what this means, but I guess I'll call it football for you guys. So, a little bit about me. All you really need to know is I wake up every day and I think how to get every company to spend $100 million on us. That's all I want you to really care about. But here is where, if you have tomatoes, you can feel free to start throwing them. I am going to put out a challenge. And that is, instead of saying the word freelance, in this presentation, you're going to hear me use the word flexible. 6 months ago, I would have thrown tomatoes at myself if I said this. Right now, the reason we're going to use the word flexible is because it encompasses gig, freelance, fractional, and increasingly digital workers. So, now we're going to get into the data. But before that, we're going to have to visualize this full space. And we're going to break it down into individuals, solutions, and the company side. Now, the individuals, we can blast that there's 333 million freelancers. We can say over half of the US workforce is going to be freelance. But to be honest, that's totally the wrong question. The right question is, what percentage of spend is going towards the flexible workforce? And the even better question is, what percentage of external spend is going to the flexible workforce? The reason that's the right question, over half of a company's workforce right now is usually external. Some companies, it's all the way up to 80%. But freelance is literally just a better external talent solution. I know we're starting to get kind of boring, but just remember that. And when we look at where the future of work is going to be in 2030, the data is starting to show us that we should take over half of external talent spend, and the crazy leap is 80% of companies should be external. So that's the individual side. The solution side, you probably don't know this when you're freelancing. There's over 2,000 solutions, over 14 different segments, and $2 trillion of solutions that are literally just trying to make your life better. And on the company side, here's where I won't make you raise your hand, but one of the big themes you're going to keep hearing is this concept of digital divide. What the digital divide means is literally just that. If you're making money on just referrals, you're most likely offline. And the problem with that is that companies can't scale if we're offline. They need a digital intermediary. And whether that's platforms or other solutions that we're talking about, if they don't have that, and our research estimates that around $7 trillion is being held up because right now over half of freelance work is happening offline. So we're going to talk about that when we talk about this digital divide. And if you want to visualize this, by the way, this is a full visual of how we would say, hey, this is the flexible workforce. This is freelance. So, quick agenda. I'm going to give you the current state. We're going to go over the good. We're going to go over the bad. We're then going to hit on what is on the horizon. We're then going to hit on how to position yourself. Let me get quick into the global data. The numbers don't matter, to be honest, so much as the direction. directionally for the past 5 years, we have seen between 10, and this is going to sound a little crazy, over 300% growth, depending on how you measure the space. Europe. Here's where I'm going to ask you guys a question here in Germany. What is in the water in Poland? The reason I ask that is because Poland is seeing 200% growth. EU is seeing a decline. Now, I'm not the expert, right? I'm not going to give you the expertise on the EU. We heard certain things. I'm simply going to throw that data out there and then run away because you guys are going to have to answer that. Now, in terms of the good, there are 4 forces that we would say prove that this freelance economy is now a structural, seismic shift in how we work. And I'm going to give you some slides, by the way, so 2 slides. This was last year. There was a movie called Freelance to show some of the normalization. And this was the slide that we looked at. The reason I bring this slide up is because, and you'll see, we totally underestimated the compound annual growth rate. So I'm kind of like typical American. I'm like showing off right now just to say like, hey, you can trust this data because last year we were actually too conservative. So 4 forces. First, individuals love it. You guys know that. I don't need to talk about that. Companies love it. So we've seen a 52% increase in companies hiring freelancers. We've seen a 310% increase in companies hiring for interim, which we'll talk about later as well. Third force, this is now a robust, interconnected industry that has size, resilience, and interconnectedness. Size, we talked about that, over 300 million. We're fine. Resiliency, here's probably one of the most important data points. From 2020 to now, there has been a 30% plus increase in freelancers, and that has survived from 2022 to now. The reason that's important, and when I say survived, there's been a 7% year-over-year revenue increase for freelancers. There's been no blip in full-time freelancers. And the reason that's so important when I say survive, there's been a 26% plus increase in expenses alongside layoffs, interest rates, downsizing, inflation, all of these things that, to be honest, the only thing scarier, in my eyes, is riding a bike in Berlin because everyone yells at you. So that's a really important one. But the fourth force, this is where I really geek out. And the reason is because for anyone that's been in technology pretty long, you know that a technology comes out, it's not just adopted. It goes through a pretty predictable technology transformation journey. And the analogy that I use in terms of when life gets normal, when we hit maturity, I just call it the Salesforce analogy because you don't have to hear it and know it. You can just see it. And here we'll call it like the SAP analogy. But in terms of where we are, we're still in like inning 1 and 2 because less than 10% of enterprises right now are adopting freelance compared, and that's the percentage of spend compared to their total workforce spend. Less than 10%. And that honestly might be less than 1%. But this is why I want to talk about this fourth force. And this fourth force is AI and downsizing. When you look at AI, and the reason I bring this up is it's happening no matter what, right? And this is what we tell companies is like, hey, you can ignore this all you want, but are you getting impacted by AI? Duh. Are you getting impacted by downsizing? Duh. Okay, well, freelance is your solution. With AI, the reason we're saying that this is a boom for freelance, you freelancers adopt this significantly more than full-time employees, and you can adopt this significantly more than full-time employees. Downsizing. Let's just hit the head. Every company is downsizing right now. I don't know no company that's only growing without reducing. The data is showing that for every role replaced, freelancers are supplementing that. So we're in a really good spot. Now, here's the full of that. We'll show it later. In terms of the bad, anyone feel like this sometimes? Total roller coaster, right? You're at your high, you're making 10 to 30 a month, boom, down to 0, where's your pipeline? That's the reality of freelancing. On the company side, there's also massive extremes. The first extreme is that there is such an abundance of freelancers. For every $1, there's probably 100 freelancers. Yet full-time, there's a total shortage, right? That just doesn't make sense. The last extreme is when we look at this right here. And this is just corporate boring. I know that. Just proof that you guys are in the right place. When we look here, the cost, the speed, and the cost efficiency, it's so much better when going with a freelance workforce. So we're just dealing with this place of massive extremes, which is totally normal when we talk about the technology adoption lifecycle. Now, we're kind of over the really boring, and now we're going to hit on sort of what's on the horizon. We're going to talk about AI, talk about fractional. We're going to talk about stablecoins, which, raise your hand if like you were thinking that stablecoins would be in this presentation. I totally wouldn't. And then we're also going to hit on skills-based hiring and leapfrogging. Now, AI. I'm going to just put this visual up, and I'm going to tell you 2 quick stories. And then I will tell you why I use this visual. I'll give you a hint. Look in here, okay? But so, first quick story. 2021. A couple founders come to me, say, hey, we're going to radically revolutionize a freelance platform. One's from McKinsey, one's a developer. And I invest in them, thinking, okay, this is the future of what a talent platform will look like. About a year later, they come back, and they say, hey, we looked at, Freelancer and Fiverr and Upwork, and we believe we can automate around 60% of these talent platforms just by using the AI tools of today. This was pre-ChatGPT, meaning when we really heard about it in the news. All us investors freaked out. Hey, this is so dumb. Why are you doing this? You're totally wasting all of our money. About a year later, they raised $50 million from Andreessen. They were totally right. That company's named 11X, and they have automated SDRs and full sales agents. I'm just going to tell you that story. A second one, which I learned about this morning, Microsoft just laid off 7,000 employees. Microsoft said a couple weeks ago they can get rid of 30% of their workforce using AI. Now, the reason I have this visual, please look at this email. Collaboration Z proposal. Who is going to actually give $100,000 to that email, right? And so when talking about AI, to me, the robots might take over our jobs. They might. But if they don't, what kind of work are we going to be doing? Strategic, creative, trust-based. And what I will tell you, the reason I put this article up, companies understand that an AI talent strategy is nothing without the right workforce strategy, specifically fractional and freelance. And this article, which I'm an American, so I will brag, it did go all the way to Spain and Mexico and all over because of how popular in terms of leaders understanding that, yes, we need the right talent strategy for AI to work. Now, when looking at the data, what really comes out is companies are struggling with implementation. So yes, they'll get really excited. They'll start using AI. Yes, in a survey, they'll check off a box that says, yes, we're using AI. We have an AI strategy. But implementation is just falling flat. And mostly because the people who are the experts that should be applying AI simply aren't in the companies already because they're in this room right here. Now, second trend, fractional. We started seeing this about a year and a half ago, I'd say. And at first, we didn't know if it was going to be that real, to be honest. There's been interim forever. Interim's not a lie. There's been part-time executives forever. But fractional actually seems to have really, really taken off. And specifically, I mean, look at this, 57% increase in fractional work, 310% increase in demand for interim leaders. So fractional seems to be real. And what I bring up here, by the way, is that it's creating a lot of applications that are fundamentally transforming consulting, and the applications look like more than fractional. If you take a picture, check out these companies, they'll show you ways that platforms are innovating because of fractional-like innovation. Now, the impact for you all, I just say fractional literally just means if strategy, then fractional. So instead of just, I'm going to build you 100 articles, it's I'm going to own your content strategy. If you do strategy plus execution, you're fractional, you're in the right place. Here's my warning. Fractional is really just a term. So if a client calls you interim, if you want to call yourself something, please let's not get in the weeds of being like, well, fractional means just this or just this. If someone's going to pay you, take the money. Don't question them on what they're calling you. Stablecoins. Just going to throw a bunch of memes up there. I did live in an area. They renamed their arena FTX Arena. Pretty big flop, right? But here's why stablecoins are interesting. It comes back to the digital divide. It might not be stablecoins. It might be the blockchain. It might be other things. What's really important is the ability to take offline freelance work and put it online. And I'm going to give you just a couple quick examples. And here's, by the way, here's the TAM. I can't really see that. Here's the TAM calculation that we looked at. And like I said, there's around $7 trillion being held up by work 100% being offline. A couple quick solutions. AirTM is one that's figured out how to really unlock the global south, specifically help with hedging inflation. Another one, if you look at something like a WorkSum, it's a freelance management. Another one, if you look at a contractor of record. I show you these slides just to say that there are so many unique applications that it's more or an and to the current talent platforms. And what's important for you is that technology is quantifying what you do, and it's enabling you to own your business. Skills-based hiring. It's just so boring, to be honest. But it is literally just the shift towards freelance being a better way to work. All it means is we're going to hire based off skills instead of where someone worked before this or where they went to school. That's it. Guess who's the best in the world for skills-based hiring? Y'all. Regional leapfrogging. Has anyone here lived in Asia before? No? Yeah? Okay. Okay, cool. So I moved to Singapore in 2020. I was traveling a lot between China and Singapore, you name it, in 2016. If I brought out my wallet and a credit card, they would laugh at me. The reason I bring this up is because in freelancing, some regions are really taking the baton and innovating in terms of freelance models. We recently studied Singapore's first ever study on the flexible workforce. And what we saw, which was fascinating, over 75% of companies are looking at freelancers for long-term engagements. What does that mean? Asia is charting the course for how we want to work with companies, right? We don't want short-term gigs. We don't want tasks. We do want long-term relationships, and Asia is seeing that. So, if I'm to put this all together in terms of what's important for you all, and I'll tell you what, the next 2 days, you are going to have so many good presentations and opportunities to really move your business forward. The first is augment yourself with AI. That's it. The second is look to specialize. Specifically, make it easy for those to hire you by being the best in the world at what you already are doing. And third would be that you have to own the trust. When companies ask us, hey, what really is freelance and why should we care? We say freelance is the best possible way to quickly, in the least amount of risk, find the people that you can trust. And what does trust mean? It means that these people will own the strategy and execution and create the impact that you need to move your business forward. That's what you all are doing. Whether it's AI, whether it's blockchain, whatever technologies you're using, you're establishing the trust and moving their business forward. Which brings me to my last thing that I want to tell you is listen, learn, connect, And then my challenge to you all, go forward and collaborate with every single person in this room. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.